I think what we really need to understand is that rest, especially in our business, and also in how we deal with our kids, rest is good. Silence is good. Boredom is good. If my husband wasn't bored, he would have never become a software engineer because he taught himself how to code. He taught himself how to build a computer, and they didn't even have internet, so he taught himself how to hijack the internet from the neighbor. And suddenly they had internet.
Your husband and my husband are so alike.
And I was very drawn to that curiosity of his, and this playfulness, and I wish I had that lightness to life. And this is something that isn't going to come to me from one day to another, but through continuously giving myself permission to play, permission to just be, permission to do something else, and stronger boundaries.
Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Puerschel, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise podcast. My name is Susanne and I am your host today. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Virginia Ribeiro de Assis, and I met her through social media. We connected through a friend of ours that I'm in a mastermind with, and we just said, hey, why don't we record a podcast? We have both parallels in the arts. She's very passionate about the arts, yet is completely or has moved her life in a completely different spectrum. So Virginia is the CEO of Content Launch and your go-to girl for all things copywriting and content strategy. She will help you find the right words to sell your expertise and create next level income, impact, and freedom in your life. After nearly a decade of subscribing to the hustle and grind mentality, Virginia now considers herself a recovered workaholic. She firmly believes in letting your content work for you so that you can focus on your zone of genius, attract clients with ease, and get paid while living your best life. Now, just this introduction has, for me, completely reeled me in, because don't we all, in a way, want to get out of the hustle mentality? And we are going to talk all about hustling. Is it really necessary? What does hustle really mean for each individual? And I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. So without no further ado, here's Virginia. Virginia, thank you so much for being on the show today. I am so honored to get to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Now, you and I really are meeting today for the very first time. We have been chatting a little bit prior to this, and we were connected through a dear friend of ours. I would love to dive right in today, because when I recorded your intro, I saw the word hustle. And today morning, I actually listened to a podcast that was talking about, is the hustle, what we are seeing as the male energy, as the work mentality, really necessary in order to be successful? So that's where I would like to go today with you and dive really deep into. First, though, where are you living right now?
Yeah, I love the topic hustle, and I am currently living in Germany. I moved back here. I was born here and raised here in Germany. And then I lived in the US for a really long time. I lived in many other places as well. So I've lived a little bit of a nomad lifestyle from like the age of 13 till 26, 27. And in 2017, I moved back here to Munich, Germany, which is where originally I'm from, and my family is still living here, and my aunts and uncles and parents and so on. And we started a family here. So yeah, that's why we moved here.
Oh, beautiful. Now you have some background in high performing sports and arts.
Yes, exactly.
And tell us a little bit about how you got into that, and how did you get out of it, and how did you step into your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay, so maybe it makes sense to start at the very beginning. My parents' generation is post-war Germany. My father was born 2 years before the war ended. My mother was born shortly after the war ended. And what you need to understand about living in Germany at that time is this generation had to hustle so hard. There are so many beliefs anchored in that generation of like, earning money is difficult. It requires lots of hard work. If you're not working and you're not creating resources or saving resources, then you're basically a slacker, you're lazy, you are not worthy if you're not producing something. You're wasting your time. In order to make money, you always have to give your best effort. Even for stuff that doesn't make money, you always have to give your best effort. And don't rest up because there's just so much to do. I mean, literally the day after the war ended, my grandma and her generation, like they stepped outside with shovels and brooms and tidied up the country and rebuilt it. That is why Germany is where it is right now. So when I was a little kid here, and it doesn't matter what I did, I was constantly told, like, okay, yeah, sure, you get to ride horses, no problem, but you've got to give it your best effort. Sure, you get to do figure skating. I'm happy to open that opportunity for you, but you have to give it your best effort. And that was something that was ingrained in me for, like, I think from day one. And it is something that has carried throughout my entire life. So I'm a very free-spirited person, maybe a little stubborn. I like to do things my way. If I do something, it needs to be the right way. So there were a lot of limiting beliefs or strong beliefs that I was holding, and I was not aware of them. So I went to school. Of course, I got super amazing grades. I wasn't very physically gifted, but I always loved doing physical things. So I did competitive horse riding, which that was one of the few sports where I was like really gifted because I had that great connection. I did figure skating, but I was also a little bit scared of falling. So I wasn't very talented, but I still trained like 5-6 hours a day until I was injured. I played piano again until injury and chronic wrist inflammation, but like I had to give it my best effort, right? Mm. And then after school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So my parents thought business school would be great. So of course I had to pick the most competitive business school in my country. And of course I had to work through that until I ended up in the hospital with burnout at age 20. My family called the ambulance because they thought I was going to have a heart attack. But that didn't matter because you had to give it your best effort, right? And that is just something that has accompanied me through my entire life until maybe 4 years ago. So after business school, I realized like, okay, well, business school is nice, but what I really want to do is something creative. I love writing, I love singing, and I love drawing. So I'm going to be a fashion designer. So I moved to New York to become a fashion designer. And after that, I was like, okay, well, I want to do my own thing. So I started my own business and took hustle to a completely new level. I was living in San Francisco at the time with my boyfriend, and my factories were mostly in LA, and it was an e-commerce store. So I was shipping product myself. I was wrapping everything. It was a lot of like manual work. If the factory needed me then I would get up at 4 a.m., drive from San Francisco to LA, work 9 to 5 in LA, and drive back home. And I did this probably 2, 3, 4 times per month. And then this really reminded me of something that I was told in business school. I was warned about this. Your life's going to feel like going 200 miles per hour with your hair on fire. And that is really the mentality that I grew up with. And my very first business was a women's activewear line. So the combination of business and fashion, the way I had studied and learned, I thought I was perfectly prepared to make this a home run. And I thought I just have to work harder because things aren't working out. So I worked harder and harder and harder. And until I had basically a breakdown, I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. It's not possible. And I had 25,000 followers on Instagram, but no one was buying anything. And I had email subscribers. I had a Pinterest account, a Facebook account. I was doing everything. I was doing photo shoots with dancers and aerialists, and I was editing photos myself. I was doing everything myself. Yes. And eventually I realized, like, I just can't. I can't do this anymore. And I joined my first coaching program, and then the second and the third, and it was just not working out for me. And eventually a coach friend of mine said, like, oh, yeah, well, you never give your audience a reason to buy. Like, they all love your product, but you don't know how to sell online. Like, that's really your problem. And then that's what put me on track to become a copywriter. He told me, like, you need to learn how to sell. You need to learn how to write copy. Changed my website, changed my email funnel. I changed what I wrote on Instagram. No more hashtags Sunday vibes or dancers of Instagram, or no more just hashtags or like superficial captions, but actually selling my product. And what I couldn't sell for 3 years sold out in 90 days. And I was just so glad. I was like, do I want to start again and produce more product and do all of this again? Or am I just so tired? And for the first time in my life, after 24 years of hustle, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a break. And that's what I did. For 2.5 months, I was like, I'm just going to do nothing. And that was a big realization and a big turnaround for me.
Wow. So can I say you're hired? Totally hired. I can still relate. Because I grew up in Germany. My mother was born in 1932. Like, her mentality was exactly that. Girl away as much money as you can. If you're not, you're a bad person. Work really hard. If you're not, you're a bad person. And even though it was really never said out loud, that expectation, I think I watched her working herself to the ground, taking it all in, trying to please everybody, but not taking care of oneself first. Yes. So I can, relate to that. And that's what I got. That's what I did for so many years. And I'm relearning how can the hustle really look like something that's fun. Let's go into fun, because here's I don't even know what that looks like. I still don't know what fun really looks like, because I have been denying it or seeing it as something unnecessary in order to get where I wanted to go. I'd love to hear your story around that.
Yeah, 100%. So my entire childhood was filled. I told you what, like, all the different hobbies I had, right? My entire childhood, every single minute of the day was filled with some activity, something that I loved doing. I loved horse riding. I loved singing. I loved playing piano. I loved figure skating. But every single minute of the day was filled with activities. And if I wasn't at an activity, then it was just because I was still in school. And then they couldn't give me a proper transcript because I took more classes than everyone, and that didn't fit on the transcript anymore, because I was like, but I'm so excited. I want to learn all the things. So I just took more majors than what they could fit on the transcript. So every single minute of my life was filled with stuff. So when I'm 31 now, and I am only now learning to check in with myself, to ask for what I need, to take breaks. And for me, the big turning point and many big realizations that I had came from working with a mindset coach. So I have a mindset coach. She wanted to do market research. I was like, sure, I will help you. I always help people when they want to do market research to build their business. And she was like, okay, well, what mindset problems do you have? I'm like, I don't have any mindset problems really because my business is doing great. And like, I don't feel blocked right now, right? I'm hustling, like I'm working it all off. It's doing great. So this was already after I had that big realization about I need to learn how to sell. And my life at that time was already much, much slower because I was pregnant and stuff. And then she asked me a question and she's like, well, okay, well, what is one thing I would love to help you out after you answered these questions? Like, what is one thing you want to work on? And I'm like, as I said, like with my business, I'm doing pretty fine. But I have this one thing. I always get angry at my husband and I have no idea why. It's completely irrational. He's a great husband. He takes amazing care of the kids. He helps out a lot. But if he sits on the couch, I get so angry. And she's like, oh, okay, well, let's take a look at that. So we did a hypnosis session and suddenly it occurred to me, I'm like, wow, I'm not mad at my husband at all. I know he's doing great. Like, he's amazing. I'm mad at myself because who is to say that he gets to sit on the couch and I don't? Why is he getting breaks and I'm not? Why, like, how dare he not be productive for even 2 seconds? And that was the big realization for me where I was like, oh my gosh, I have needs. Like, I need a break occasionally. Wow. And the moment I realized that I had attached my self-worth to how productive I am, how much I can get accomplished at any given point in time, that gave me the power to decide, like, am I really mad at my husband for taking a quick breather after cooking and taking care of the kids and working and doing everything that I'm doing as well? Or do I just really need to sit down, have a cup of water, maybe put my feet up for 2 minutes, snuggle with him on the couch while the kids continue to destroy the house? What do I need? And I actually added reminders to my calendar for 10 a.m., noon, 4 p.m., and 6:30 p.m. or 7 p.m., something like that, several times a day. And that reminder simply pops up and it's just a simple question, what do you need right now? To remind myself to check in with what I really need. And I noticed I never do that. I make excuses for why I can't shower in the morning, but need to postpone it to the night when the kids are sleeping because something else is more important because I could be productive right now. I make excuses why I'm not putting on makeup because I don't have time. Right? I need to work something, or I need to spend time with the kids, or I need to do laundry or do something else. And as soon as I added that reminder, I realized how many times I'm putting myself behind everything else. And you can't pour from an empty cup. So that was...
Gosh. You just held up a mirror. Completely. Yeah. No. So seeing myself, particularly the example of your husband sitting on the couch taking a break. I found myself getting angry at my husband sitting there while I was, he could be doing this and he could be doing this. And it would be easier if he would be stop resting and keep hustling, because self-worth was attached to the hustle. So this is so good. Let's, when you say your self-worth was attached to how productive, yeah, that's the right word, how productive you were. When was it enough? Or did you ever get to thank you. So you never got to that point, right? Where it was enough.
Exactly. So while I am in that mindset, there's like the stories that are running in the back of my mind are like, it's not good enough. You have to try harder. You have to keep going. There's still so much in the house that you could be doing. And also, you haven't worked enough today. You've only worked 3 hours and you want to make $500,000 this year. Like, you need to work harder. How are you going to make that happen if you don't work? What are you doing? You're never going to reach your goal. You're always going to fall short. And what's really important is that you start building awareness, that you get to recognize when the stories in your head that are so subtle and so fast, when they start to affect you negatively, when they start to put you in fight or flight mode, right. And when they start to chase you in a way that's completely unnecessary. So for me, for my business, it's completely unnecessary to work 12-hour days or 14-hour days or 18-hour days the way I used to in my first business. And to be honest, as soon as I fixed my copywriting and my content and the way I was selling and showing up online with my product, it was completely unnecessary to work like that as well. And now I know there are a few things that I know I want to do or have to do for my business, but I can, if I need to, I can check that off in 30 minutes. If I really need time for myself, then there's only 30 minutes a day that I really need to do some crucial thing. And that's usually for me, that's Instagram stories, because my entire business comes from Instagram. It's the only channel I'm using right now. And everything else can wait. And that is something that I can do even when the kids are sleeping, or I can just hand off the kids to my husband and say, okay, you do this. And if even that is too much, then I can do something in 5 minutes. For example, during my last launch, my son had an accident. He needed to go to the hospital and he needed surgery and so on and so forth. Like, even then, like, I could just tell someone else, like, can you please log into my account, pick something old just to make sure something is on my Instagram story. And that's all I needed that day. And I called my best friend and she was like, okay, yeah, I found something. I found some old mini training or so. I subtitled it for you. You're good.
That's amazing. So knowing what you need is step number one, right? And I understand that there's that was me in my past, taking pride in putting myself last and expecting to be at my best while pouring in the worst into me. That if we're not high, like when the demand gets really high and we're not up in our self-care, and with self-care, I mean high level, who's around us, what do we need, having those reminders, checking in with ourselves at any given point during the day. If we put that on the back burner, you will also show up as your back burner self and not as your highest version of yourself. And I think that particular in us women, it is ingrained that we're serving. We're here to serve our children. We're here to serve the business. We're, some women still believe they have to serve their husbands in certain ways. I've seen that. And their needs are second or third base. Yeah. So where do we go from here? So when I look at your early, because most women really step into this in their late 30s, early 40s, when the kids are raised and you're like, okay, now I'm free. Now I can take care of me. I find it so beautifully that you found that so early on. And let's go into what you're doing now, because I find it so intriguing. I find it so beautiful. I find that I think you found your purpose, and you probably maybe wouldn't have gotten here if you wouldn't have gotten through all the pain and the hustle that you experienced, that your parents gave to you. Well, yeah, that's what these are our gifts that we then can turn into our anchors or into our gifts. It depends on how we're looking at them. So what is it really you're doing right now? How are you helping your customers? And how can we draw actually a little bit of a parallel to performing artists?
Yeah. So what I do right now, so I'm a copywriter and content coach, and most coaches spend a tremendous amount of time, not just coaches, but entrepreneurs, spend a tremendous amount of time online creating content that doesn't help them build their business, doesn't help them get clients, doesn't help build their reputation. And by content, I really mean captions and the things that they say. Mm-hmm. When you think about branding, a lot of the times people think about like, oh, which font should I choose, or which color should I choose, or like, am I more of a black and white type of person, or what editing style? All of that is like nice, but it's to help you create like sort of feelings. But in the end, if someone asks you like, what does this person do? You're not going to tell them they're a Helvetica and the color is 422. You're going to tell them like, oh, they're a copywriter. You need help with content? Yeah, they're a copywriter that can help you write content that converts. Oh yeah, she's a dancer, right? We repeat words and we use words to describe what other people do. So if you want to brand yourself as a dance instructor or a performer who specifically, I don't know, let's say you're a dancer or performer for weddings or for a certain type of event, then you could say like, this is what I do, and you need to repeat that often enough for people to memorize it, right? So what I help entrepreneurs do basically is find the right words to communicate what they do, to communicate their value, so that people simply get it. And they get it not after like 2 years, but like they can read one caption, one post, and it just has to be the right one. And they will instantly have the desire to work with you and be interested in your offers. And for me, it goes so far that I can sometimes pinpoint individual pieces of content and how much money they make. So in terms of like their return on investment. And when I am in my fight or flight mode because I am burning myself to the ground, then I can't create that kind of content that I could create for myself or for my clients when I am well rested, when my body is like hydrated and I've spent some time stretching and I feel good and my mind is clear. Then I sometimes have like intuitions of like, oh, okay, like I know what I want to write. And those are the most profitable, successful pieces of content. And it doesn't matter if like 500 people see them or 5,000, to be honest. Like one of my least often viewed reels is still one of the most profitable ones that I just created on a whim in 5 minutes because I was excited about something. So there goes a lot about of like content, like strategy and experience into learning how to position yourself, into learning how to capture attention online, into learning how to get your messaging across. But once you have these tools, it actually becomes really, really easy to run a business because, you know, you just have to put something out there and you can sit back and trust that that thing does the work for you. You don't have to go out engaging with 50 people a day, leaving 3 likes, 2 comments, and a follow, and doing all of that kind of stuff. I don't. And I don't know, when I started my Instagram account, that was like 1.5 years ago now, I think my first paid and full client came through at just 92 followers. And I no longer do sales calls for my high ticket coaching programs. Like I just send people the link and I'm like, okay, I would love to work with you. You filled in the application. You seem like a great fit for the program. What are your questions? Here are the answers and here's the link. And they just sign up.
So this is so good. You know, the mentality that we're seeing, and I'm going to go back to the how can we actually put this into the whole concept that you so just beautifully described. around, you just have to do the right stuff. It's not about doing all the things. Do the right stuff, and it won't take so much time. It actually originates by you being ready to create and not working so much that you actually cutting yourself off of your own creativity. So I just forgot my next question. And we're not cutting this out. This is like me. Okay, so being in that flow state and being able to deliver that way comes from the trust in oneself. It's at least for me. Okay. And that for me is still a huge journey. Now, when we're looking at your childhood, do your very best at everything that you do. It always translated into you have to practice this one thing over and over and over again, the same way you practice it yesterday and the day before and the day before. And we're never asking the question, I'm not stepping forward. I'm just trusting this particular process, but maybe that process isn't actually how I can blossom, how I can find the best outcome. And when I say we, I am buttering it all over the performing arts here. There is one way of doing it, and that's the only way. And you know what? Quite honestly, in entrepreneurship, when I first started out, it was just that same too. There is one way. It's the hard way. You have to work 18 hours a day. If you're not doing it, you're not going to be successful.
This is still being preached. If you watch videos from Gary Vee, right? I mean, he's like, you have to output more content. No, you don't. I post 1 time per week. I was pregnant every single minute of the first year or with a newborn on my lap. There was no way I could burn myself to the ground like that anymore. And I specifically created this business because I realized it's enough. If I continue the way I did with my first business, I will end up in the hospital again. And there's actually a wonderful book. Hang on. This is what it's called, When the Body Says No. So this is a big topic that I'm still like learning about. And it's called When the Body Says No, Exploring the Stress-Disease Connection. And this is a series of medical, scientific information, but also case studies and examples from this author's personal life. And it's consistent that the people who burn their candle from both ends, and maybe in the middle, as well,
all ends,
who just light the whole damn thing on fire, they will get sick, and this is non-negotiable. I have passed out from stress. I have gotten fever from stress. I could not complete my last year of business school in school. I could only study at home by myself because every single time I stepped foot into that super competitive business school, I would fall sick. My body was clearly communicating, no, you cannot do this. And I created the business that I am running now specifically for the purpose of, I don't want to live this kind of life anymore. I am done going 200 miles per hour. I am fine to slow down. This took a lot of courage to make that decision. I knew I wanted to have children, and I knew I didn't want to be the kind of parent that is completely absent from their children's life. I wanted to have a business where I can work in the morning while they're kindergarten or in primary school eventually or whatever. And then I maybe even have an hour or 2 to take care of myself. And then when I pick them up, I'm in a good mood and I'm excited to see them because I'm not walking. In German, we would say, I'm walking along on my gums because I'm so exhausted. Right.
Auf dem Zahnfleisch laufen, right? Is that how we said it? Yeah. Exactly.
You got some German culture right in there.
Yeah, right in here. Just hey, this podcast is very popular in Europe, particularly, so I understand. Thank you so much for that, because we have this innate belief that in order to get where we want to get, it only can be hard. We need to be sick. We need to be skinny. It needs to feel really, really hard, like going with boots through molasses. And if it doesn't feel like that, it is not worth it.
Enough.
You're not enough. You're not doing enough. And the outside world will also point their fingers at you.
I think this is something that is fundamentally flawed in the way we raise our children and the way our school systems work, and the way everything is drilled on performance. My husband and I, we both thrive in a competitive environment, but he somehow still has the gift and the skill to slow down. So I was asking myself, how is that possible? And the truth of the matter is, he grew up in Brazil. His school system was not competitive at all. It really was an intrinsic thing from my husband, who is extremely curious, extremely playful, and wants to learn. So when I first met him, I was still a fashion designer. He would learn. He was like, oh, that's really cool. Can you tell me the difference between this fabric and that fabric? How do I recognize this and that? And we would walk through the mall and I would challenge him. I'm like, can you guess the designer of this garment or this handbag and stuff? And we would play like this, and it was really fun. So he really had this intrinsic motivation to learn and to acquire knowledge and do all the things. And he didn't have that pressure from the outside of like, you must perform. He could do whatever the hell he wanted with his time. And the fact that he had free time actually helped him acquire the skills that later led to his job. Now, for me, it was the complete opposite. It was like, well, what do you want to do today? You have a free day. Like, what do you want to do today? And I think what we really need to understand is that rest, especially in our business, like, and also in how we deal with our kids, rest is good. Silence is good. Boredom is good. If my husband wasn't bored, he would have never become a software engineer, because he taught himself how to code. He taught himself how to build a computer, and they didn't even have internet. So he taught himself how to hijack the internet from the neighbor. And suddenly they had internet.
Your husband and my husband are so alike.
And I was very drawn to that curiosity of his, and this playfulness. And I wish I had that lightness to life. And this is something that isn't going to come to me from one day to another, but through continuously giving myself permission to play, permission to just be, permission to do something else, and stronger boundaries. Because the other thing is, like, I think in our upbringing, we just failed to establish boundaries for ourselves. And especially if you had very driven parents. Like, my mom wanted to give me everything she didn't have as a child, because post-war Germany, she didn't have the opportunity to learn piano. She didn't have the opportunity to ride horses. She didn't have the opportunity to do all the things that she would have liked to do. So she was giving me all of these opportunities, but at the same time, there wasn't necessarily the permission to just be, the permission to rest. And that was never outspoken. I'm not sure my mom's even aware of it, because she is still in that mindset of like, I always must do something. She wakes up in the morning, she's like, okay, I'm going to do laundry, I'm going to do this, and that. And I just see where that leads to. And I consciously make the effort every day to decide, is this the life that I want? And if not, what can I do to fix it? And how can I take one step at a time to pivot the direction of where I'm going?
I love that. You know what just came in for me was that we do have the choice. There is not just one way of living and it fits everybody. We all have a choice on how we create our life and what it looks like. And B, this is my list for today. This is what I have to do.
What I choose to do.
Yeah. Well, now here's what I'm choosing to do. It used to be, this is what I have to do. Because I didn't want to sit still. I could not sit with me. I was so afraid of what's going to come in because of all the old stories and the pain. Like, I didn't want to deal with that. So for me, the hustle was exactly what I needed. And I still get to these points sometimes where everything on the inside is just bubbling. And the only way I used to deal with the bubbles was, okay, what else can I do? Can I go for another run? I'll just go clean out this cupboard. Or
my coping mechanism is to go to the basement and do laundry. If I get really angry, I'm like, I'm going to go do laundry. Because
is doing it.
Exactly. No one else is doing this. No one.
But
Also, I do have to admit, the fact that I'm a fashion designer, I do get a weird satisfaction from ironing laundry and seeing wrinkle-free fabric. It is meditative for me. I love ironing clothes.
Okay, I can not relate to that. I have that with cleaning something out and organizing. And however, I can draw the parallels. But you know what? The thing is that our past has shaped us this way. And what really the message here is that we don't have to continue. We do not have to end up in a hospital. We don't have to step out, let's say for performing artists, outside of your career and look at yourself and you are a shell because you've given everything to somebody else's expectation. I absolutely love that you have these reminders in your phone that say, hey, check in, what do you need right now? How can I support myself? And that is maybe seen as selfish. It was seen as selfish by my mother's generation, and it was seen as selfish by the teachers that I was surrounded with. And I am learning now that that actually has nothing to do with a bad form of selfish, where we are so, how do you say that? That everything is just about ourselves and we don't care about anything around ourselves or other people and their feelings. No, we as people need to fill our cups literally first, that whatever is overflowing goes to other people and not the other way around. And learning that is so important in order to show up as your very best self.
Yeah. I think that the people also who claim that this is selfish, there's either two things going. Either they're jealous because they're not giving themselves these breaks. And when deep down, they really would need them. And a need is not negotiable. A need is something that's either filled or not filled. And if it's not filled, there are consequences to that. So it's non-negotiable. So they're either a little bit jealous or angry at themselves because they're not filling their own needs, or they are in some form or way taking advantage of a lack of boundaries that we're doing. So whenever someone's telling you, oh, that's selfish, and that might even be the voice in your head that you've inherited from someone else, that you're being selfish because you take a break, and then it's your decision and your choice whether you want to agree with that or whether you can actually fact check it and be like, that may be true, but maybe it's not. And the moment you take a step back and you actually analyze all of the thoughts, all of the beliefs that are running on autopilot in the back of your mind, you are starting to take control of your life and you get to decide which direction it goes. And you get to decide whether you're going to continue down the road that you're walking on or whether you're changing from one road to the other one step at a time. And the truth is, when we run businesses, of course we want to be successful. Of course we want to create the financial freedom or the time freedom or the location freedom or all the freedom that we're always being preached to. But there are very, very few things in business that are actually a necessity to be successful. Very, very few. At least successful in the way that we're running our businesses. Like to have 5K, 10K, even 20 or 30K a month, it doesn't really take a lot of things to do. No. You need one offer, you're good. You need one clear message and you need the ability to effectively communicate how you help people. And that's really everything you need. And then you serve your clients, delivering your offer, you're done. There's not that much more that goes into it. And my business coach has a list of affirmations by which she lives by, and it is just mind-blowing the way she embodies all of these. But things that I've adopted are, my content is doing the work for me. Rest is a money-making activity. I am worthy of rest. And every single time I post, because I choose to post, every single time I post, money flows to me. And this is really something that I have realized over time is so true. And if I cut out all the other unnecessary crap that simply my ego and the stories in my head are making me do, then I am creative. I can simply use the tools that I have to put out really good content that helps me grow my business and then be done. I don't need to do more work than that. That's really it. And my business coach really like embodies that to like the full potential, and it's just insane. I mean, she just had a baby and she's still on track to hit 7 figures this year. It's her first 7-figure year. And I think the only thing that you're really in competition with is whether you can control and decide and witness the thoughts that are going on in your head, and then making conscious choices about whether or in how far you let them rule your life.
Yep. You know, I just love how, and I call this matter of fact, actually a very German mindset. I was teased by it in school, like, why are you not writing like 10 pages around this topic? And it's like, because this is all there's really to say about this. It's this way, and there you can get as philosophically as you want to. The real hit of this entire fruit is that no, it doesn't take burnout in order to be successful. And here's how.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that goes for not only entrepreneurs. I truly believe, and I had this conversation yesterday. I was asked, so I don't know, like I'm strongly believing that producing dancers takes a lot of, work, and they have all this strain on their bodies and their psychology. And it's like, we're not asking the right questions. We're only repeating. We're not asking what if, what would it look like when, how can I adapt to, how could this be fun? Because we're so in the mentality that it has to be complicated and hard. And the more complicated it is, the better it's going to be. And that I think we're getting into that space that more and more people are actually showing that, you know what? No, I dare you. It's wrong. Let me show you how.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing with my business, and why I chose the career that I chose in the end.
Beautiful.
Because I think every single person deserves to have a thriving business without working themselves to the ground. I have seen these stories over and over and over again from so many of my friends, and it's very, very clear to me where the path will go for most people. Most people will think it needs to be hard, and then they're procrastinating because it doesn't really feel good, and then they don't show up online, and they have this dream about their business, but it's not happening for them. So they just work harder and harder and harder and takes even more fun out of it, and it's burning down their energy. And in the end, they abandon their business, and then they go do something that they're not passionate about, and then they decide life sucks, I need to be rescued. And it continues to spiral like that. And for me, my first business, I was so lucky to turn it around in the end and pull myself. I was $100,000 in debt by that time because producing product is so expensive. And I was so lucky that I naturally had that gift to write really well. And I just had to learn how to write copy. As in, like, I just had to learn the tools and the frameworks, but it was very fast and easy for me to implement this. Not everybody has this gift. And that was I was simply lucky in that sense. But when I did that, I was like, okay, well, identity crisis, like I'm too burned out from this business. This business took too much of a toll for me. So I decided to abandon it. And then we decided like, okay, well, we do all of it at once. We stopped that business. We take the money, we moved to Europe, we changed completely. And then I was like, okay, well, what can I do now? And then I was like, I really, truly hope that with my skills, I can help other entrepreneurs and save them from the fate that my first business had. And I saw that over and over and over again. And actually, the dear friend of ours who put us in touch, she had a very, very similar experience. And as soon as she was producing a lot of content and gaining a lot of followers, but it wasn't necessarily converting. And then after we worked together, things simply changed and everything got to be easier and everything, it was like you actually get to breathe and enjoy life. Yeah. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
I love it. All right. So we are going to link in the show notes, and dancer or not, performing artist or not, I am encouraging you to actually really take a look at it, because the headline of your freebie is scroll stopping headlines. And so here's the thing. Performing artists love to post themselves dancing on social media. And that's great, because this is how, particularly through the pandemic, they were seen and got the attention that they were missing when stepping on stage. Mm-hmm. Now, it is my mission to show them that, hey, with what you're doing already, you can actually make money. And here is one way you so kindly offered to put this in the show notes, that you can actually take a look at how you can, not only through your beautiful face and body and motion, but also through your words, attract more people that are looking to you, at you, and particularly maybe can get you some, deals or collaboration or anything that you really are looking for.
Yeah. Basically, when you post your beautiful dancing to Instagram, it's lacking context. So when you post a video of you performing a beautiful piece, what is it that you want your audience to do? You want them to read it and to watch it and engage with you? You have to let them know, because engagement is crucial for brand deals. Do you want them to go hire you for teaching because you're teaching online classes? Well, then you need to let them know. And that is what goes into your caption. What do you want your audience to do? How can they help you make an income, make a living with the thing that you're most passionate about? And only if you have a headline that's catchy and attention grabbing, people are actually going to read what you wrote. And if you want to add context beyond just a video of you dancing, which they will see, they will go like, oh, that's pretty. And then they will keep scrolling because it's the internet, because there's a cute cat video and a funny meme and a funny quote and an inspiring, video just around the corner that they could be watching. And all of that's tugging on their attention. So please don't just put your beautiful video and say Monday dance vibes or something like that, or Flexibility Friday or something. Like, actually let your audience know what you want them to do.
I love it.
Give it context.
Okay, last question. With what you know today and with who you are today, if you would have the chance to talk to your 16-year-old self and tell her one thing, what would that one thing be?
Take a breath. You don't have to work so hard. Look at the people who are already doing what you want to do and simply learn from them. And when you do, make sure that they're actually living the kind of life that you want to live. Because you can learn from someone, but then you're also adopting their lifestyle. If you learn from Gary Vee, you're going to be burning the candle on both ends. If you learn from someone who is still living hustle and grind, working 24/7, then whatever you're learning from that person is going to be just that. And it's going to define how you live your life. You want to build a successful business, and you learn from someone who is consciously leaning back, leaning into rest, into doing only the bare necessities and being open to receive, then you're going to create a life with a lot of space, with a lot of oxygen, with a lot of freedom to actually live your life. And no, you don't have to go 200 miles per hour. Everything's a choice.
Well, amen to that. Absolutely. All right, Virginia, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate your time and your expertise. And It is so interesting to talk to another woman who has been through that and particularly grew up in that same cultural mentality of the hustle and the grind, and how you turn it around, I think is very inspiring. And I hope that everybody listening today will at least take a little bit of time to reflect on where they're at and perhaps ask themselves the question, is this really what I want? Where do I want to go? And how do I get there without burning out? All right, guys, thanks for listening. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sending you guys so much love. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.